the stock copycat tools, and it's pretty difficult to deal with at this point.
What is that platform called?
It's just a part of the new compositing suite. It's called Copycat.
Okay.
Is that like open source?
No, this is a part of like the Foundry's like compositing software. I believe it was independent that started it, and then the Foundry went and I think obtained them, and it's been wrapped into their whole thing. And I don't know what the pricing of like Nuke is.
Yeah, it just comes with Nuke, but it also there is a library right now of the models you can actually use with the copycat, not just your own.
Yeah. We have to be very careful about taking other
Of course,
data.
yeah, of course.
So it's just been like we're trying to train as much on like inbound data as possible, or like local data as possible.
And right now we have this distributed training on the multiple GPUs, which is good. You don't have to like do it on your own, but from the farm.
Yeah.
How does, sorry, just one follow-up. How does it compare to, say, Wonder Dynamics, which was just acquired by Autodesk, or Electric Sheep, as far as their ability to composite?
I haven't had the ability to test those.
One of the dynamics, you train it and you got the results, or you just explore the joints and geo. Copycat is a purely 2D, so it just analyzes the image and you tell what to find, what to like apply. One in dynamics, it's just analyzing the image for recreation of the animation. So if you analyze the footage, you can just recreate the full motion, or just substitute with the avatars they have already pre-trained, or you can bring your own model in the Wonder Dynamics. But it doesn't exist. You have to talk to Autodesk right now.
Thank you.
So we kind of switch gears right now, and just posing an interesting question. How many of you think AI is a threat 10 years from now, and how many of you think it's a future collaborator? So we have a show of hands for future threat. And then if you show your hand, I want you to say why do you think AI is a threat? Yes?
I don't think, well, I think it's nuanced. It's at this area right now that we should be very cautious on what we train it on, and especially not with the word generator, but with the image generator for music, for script writers. We should be very careful of what it uses and just credit the data, like the people who created those things get credits when they're when the image, for example, is heavily relied on like their illustration type and all of that. So that's the threatening part, I think. But I do see like the potential of being like it's an amazing tool as long as we just keep shouting about like, oh, what about the people? Give them credit. If you just yell that loud enough and get the companies to hear and be careful and just like have those regulations and laws that prevent like artists from suffering. I think it's a good tool, but there is potential for it.
Awesome. So just to reinforce, what do you want the companies to hear? I know we have a ton of folks here from different companies. So what do you think will be, will protect this data as a whole? Especially with images, I know there's deep fakes and there's so many, clones. People can make clones of us, and they might have a different person saying the same thing. So what, according to you, should companies hear for future compliance?
I think, like for us as users, like for me as a user, I don't know what data sets they use, but they know what data sets they use. I think they should get permission from the people, or there should be like a practice that you should tag your images when you upload them online, that it can be used for training data or it cannot be used for that, and they should respect that. And also when they use it, they should have like a way of giving credits to the artists or pay them, or in a way just like acknowledge that that's what they use for training their data. It seems like it's arbitrary, but it is not. Like, to us it might seem like, oh, it's generated out of thin air, but it is not. There are very similar issues, like especially for those artists that their work is recognized, they are at the most risk because their work is heavily used to train those sets of generative AIs.
So more levels of encryption and sign-in tags and all that. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on why you think AI is a threat, and maybe you have some policy in your organization to mitigate that protection. Any other thoughts you want to share? Yes?
Can you clarify what you mean by threats? Like,
Yeah, it
because-
could be like what our former colleague said, like maybe it could be like image, someone could mess up with the images, and maybe you spend, you're an environment artist and you spend tons of hours creating that backend, and someone could just take a screenshot and kind of steal your work.
So you're thinking
So-
in the job security
Yeah,
standpoint?
it could be job security, it could be, stealing your data, it could be like maybe, even making a clone of your heart. You spend a lot of time working on something, but, someone could just take that. So what compliance, there's a huge issue.
What about, for example, like using AI for rigging, say, people start looking at it more as a solution rather than a suggestion. So then they start using it. Next thing you know, you have a person rig that everything looks exactly the same because of the solution, or even just taking it a step further and people using it as a solution and coming to the wrong data, coming to the wrong answer. Lately, would that be a threat?
Positive.
I mean, yeah, and another one along those lines would be if you start plugging AI into AI too much. If you start using AI to run basic quality assurance tests, that's not a bad idea. If your quality assurance questions at some level, even outside of your control, start getting generated by AI, then you start having your sets begin to feed into each other, and you might eventually run into a situation like two chatbots chatting to each other where you get garbage. And that garbage in, garbage out kind of protection is the most insidious and very difficult to properly guard against, because as our systems become more complex, we have more layers, we don't necessarily control all of them. How would you properly try to assert that you're having good data and data that's not going to be, massaged in some way that...
How do you best for making sure it's not an approximation of approximation?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that can also be a goat, like what you said, AI feeding off AI. So that's cool. So any other thoughts from this side? I know we've been quiet, especially on this wall. So any thoughts? You think AI is a threat or a future collaborator? What do you feel? Yes.
I just want to throw out a thought here that before you go too deep down the is AI a threat, AI is just a tool, just like a computer or a bulldozer or something like that. You can't say is a bulldozer a threat. It's really about how people are using them. If we just end up being sheeple, that we're just going to take the results of an AI system and just use it blindly without any critical analysis, we are the threats. It is just a tool, and it needs to be perceived that way and advertised that way so people don't think it's way more than it really is.
I think it's both. It's definitely a threat for a lot of reasons that we're seeing now today, and we will continue to see. But it's also an amazing collaborator. Like one example, there's been some things mentioned on like the negative aspects, but one thing I don't know I'm wary of that we're seeing and that we're going to keep seeing is like an excess of just oversaturation of content, and kind of like what this gentleman was talking about, how we're like some of it is just redundant junk that we get. One area that really concerned me was like a lot of children's content, like YouTube Kids content, is flooded with scripted, voiced, image-generated AI, all of it just AI. And I watched some of these videos, and like they have tons and tons of views by children, and they're just like, I look at them and I'm just like, this is garbage. Like it's just kind of feeding them nothing. And actually, a lot of it was just weird misinformation of like recycling moral stuff that we would teach kids, but kind of in a slightly twisted way. And but it's everywhere, so that's like flooded. So that's a threat. But just like, it is a tool for sure, but like any tool, it can be abused horribly, and it can be a saving grace for a lot of people. It can have a lot of great stuff. So it's just both. You just have to be wary about like how bad is some of the abuse, and is there anything we can do to mitigate it? Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Well, I just wonder, I mean, when we talk about AI taking people's copyrights or infringing on someone's style, I mean, without that tool, it happens in every industry all the time. I mean, the music industry is constantly copying whoever the latest, top 10 artist is, and the fashion industry copies each other, the automotive industry copies each other. I mean, it's been going on forever. So, I mean, I don't think the context of AI makes that any different. I mean, people read scripts and then they adopt other writers' styles. I mean, they've been doing this forever. So, I mean,
But this is different. Now you got the speed of light transmission.
Yeah,
Okay, now it's like, now you got the whole Russia hacking into Facebook using the Cambridge Analytica, who are the vulnerable people. Now you've literally got the whole sleeper Russian cells. They don't have to be planted inside the United States. They can be done virtually, and you just let these sleeper cells, and boom, you can do it with one mouse click. You can. The 2016 election got hacked by Russian operatives. Putin made a laughing stock of the internet, invented the United States. So I think this is an unregulated industry, what we have right now. Unfortunately, that means the Fed's are going to have to intervene. Now, what about other countries? I mean, over-regulation, that's the other part that, now infringes on the potential positive aspects of AI.
wait a minute. So you're talking about propaganda as well as just malicious hacking and.
Information superhighway. That was the first tag for the internet. Now, disinformation superhighway. This is what all this disinformation can be generated.
Media's being, there's media that you can watch many of the major news stations, and there's propaganda that's being spewed out there that's not based on fact or anything. I don't.
But now it's even on top of that, which I agree. Then now you got now you got a total chaos now. It's an unregulated industry.
Let's switch gears and.
I know there's been several examples
Yeah.
of things that we can create along with AI that could benefit, such as QA for making sure that restrictions apply to analytics and things like that. However, if there was an AI tool that you could create, I mean, in the back, just being able to take our wiki data or internal data, documentation, things like that, and output it so that instead of reading through this documentation, we can just answer those questions or ask a question and get exactly what we're looking for. Like an example like that, if you can create one AI tool,
Yeah, right. We can give you folks some time to think. It could be anything, like maybe 20 years from now or 5 years from now. If you had all the tools, the data set, you had a workforce, what would be that one AI tool that you want? Okay, so we give you time to think, but we hear it from.
Yeah, it was just
Yes.
the point. I think there's two different conversations. What the gentleman mentioned is more the AI worldwide that is tackled today by all the responsible AI groups, etc., which is managed by all the government. But there's also the AI that we can use as good tools, right? So it was a question that I wanted to ask the crowd, but I worked with a studio and I found it interesting that they have developed a tool just for rendering, right? So rendering one frame on 4 and the rest being interpolated by that. So in that way, they were able to reduce their power consumption, so the carbon footprint, and they were happy with that tool. It wasn't taking anybody's job, it was clean. So I wanted to know if there's more use of cool tools like that that you guys have in rendering or other stuff.
You can go to our Autodesk tools, 401. I guess we did a ton of tools. Like, I don't want to make this session too specific and
No, but I was
talk
saying
about a
that
specific
that's a
product.
good use,
There's
right?
almost
It's not
like
threatening.
800 AI rendering tools that I'm aware of. So, it could lead to that, but maybe it's not, it won't solve the entire problem you have, but it will help you get there. Okay, so thank you for that.
Well, just to answer that question for a second, I mean, one of the most common uses of AI these days is actually in denoising. And again, one of the reasons is because it's a very quantitative thing. You can actually analyze that quantitatively to see, is it better or worse, is there more noise or less? So that's a very good use of AI. And there's plenty of other tools like that, I'm sure.
And honestly, just the basics of what AI does today. You know, if you go into, Bedrock or ChatGPT or any of these other solutions, you can easily use a sandbox when you're stuck. Early days, everyone would say, so what are the use cases? What are the use cases? Where is it actually going to matter? Well, you know what, if you don't have some ideas, something that we did at my company is we just went ahead and started going, okay, so I'm an executive. How do I take the modalities, text, audio, image, 3D assets, and multimodal, look at all the categories and run those through the combine and go, where are the use cases that are going to either save me money or are going to generate new revenue streams? And within 50 minutes and about 4 lines of Python script, we had 2,100 use cases. And as we started talking to people, looking at them, over 50% of them were absolutely valid. So using these tools for just the basics of, hey, if you get stuck or you're frustrated, use it as a conversational component to start validating ideas and pushing yourselves to that next step.
Yes.
To answer the minister as well, we are working in the VFX industry and we are developing a lot of our tools, AI tools, and we mostly use, of course, denoiser for the rendering and CG rendering, but we also use our own rotoscopy we have made so far to train image painting as well, to refine edge a lot. We use that tool a lot, especially on vegetation and stuff like that. We use as well AI for tracking tools. We track scenes once and we generate data from that, all of that. We use AI as well for in painting. We use AI for some of the tasks, creating depth map and creating automatic mask, human mask, or based on segmentation as well. So we try to create a lot of tools to help artists. We don't have a look now about anything that is generative because we are a small company that create high quality stuff, and we try to create tools that helps artists and try to keep them as happy as possible and secure as possible. That's pretty it.
There's a resolution upsampling, isn't there?
Resolution something as well. Yes, we do that as well.
Yes. Next discussion question. Create one tool to assist with your work. What would it be and what would it do?
And you can make up your own tool. I mean, call it a funky name and.
So for further discussion.
Yeah. Also, you can regroup and maybe you can.
Whoever's standing in the back, there's open seats.